The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
Well, here's how Ratty Racer turned out. Ratty Racer. Well, it is Rad Racer, and it is kind of ratty, but a lot of that, whatever that was, paint or whatever it was on here, came out with a little bit of Goo Gone, but mostly rubbing alcohol. And this is what I managed to get it down to. You can still see some fading here and there, and there's still some of that stuff in here. I don't know if maybe someone left a Nintendo game on the floor when they were trying to paint their ceiling or something, and some paint got on this or something like that, but it came off, so it doesn't look anywhere near as horrible as it used to. Back looks okay. And this game is pretty much back to being playable. Needed to be cleaned out all the heck, and there was tobacco residue all over the place on this thing, so I wound up just disassembling the entire cartridge and cleaning everything out. Contacts, the plastic inside, and a lot of yellow residue garbage came off on the Q-tips and the paper towels that I used to clean this thing off. But it's back to looking like a respectable Nintendo game. Of course, Nintendo World Cup's in great shape as is, so don't really need to do much to that. Just cleaned off the connectors, as you should always do whenever you buy secondhand cartridge games for old cartridge systems. Unfortunately, it looks like my Retro Duo died. So I've had this piece of junk since, I believe, August 2008, so I got a couple of years out of it. The thing is, I don't know if this piece of junk died or if I might have accidentally fried it, because it takes 5 volts in the back, but there's nothing too special about the plug that you plug in with the 5-volt adapter, and I was in a rush to hook it back up one time, and I almost put 12 volts through it. I think I almost put 12 volts through it. Can't remember. I might have plugged it in without applying power, or I might have accidentally, did this, like, oh shoot, 12 volts, don't click, no, I hope it still works. Well, part of it still works. This thing can somewhat still serve as a Super Nintendo thing here. Let's just hit 16-bit, got the crappy controller plugged in. So the 16-bit one actually still works. I mean, here's Super Baseball Simulator 1000. This still... Wait a minute. Oh, yeah, there's a little bit of a... Alright. So I can just go to Exhibition. Da-da-da. Yeah, see, it still works. We're going through the composite out, so it's total garbage. Anyways. So everything still works on the SNES side. But when you turn on the power on the NES side, so the Bugs Bunny Birthday Blowouts startup screen is only playing the music at half tempo and there's no video output. But I can actually push buttons and cycle through what would normally be the opening story, and it seems to apparently work. It's just that the video output's not getting out. And I think this is a system-on-a-chip-based system, so I'm thinking, yeah, see, now there's no sprites. So... I mean, you can actually hear the sound effects and everything, and I can pretty much just keep running and jumping until I die. There we go. So I think there's something with the video that's going on here. Something weird going on with the video out. I mean, I can even pause the game. So I don't know. Because this thing's being a pain in the neck, I just got a Super Retro Trio on order. Trying a new e-tailer out, Lukey Games, which I understand is a rather large retro game seller. And here it is right here. So, probably gotta switch the white balancing here. White balance to auto mode. So I can actually see reds and stuff and not have it get all blue and Smurf-a-vision on here. So Lukey Games, the Super Retro Trio. The reason why I want this to be my next Famiclone is because it takes the original controllers. And I've got one of each original controller from failed experiment with a Wii multi-tap several years ago, and I like to actually use those controllers for something. So Super Retro Trio getting the silver and black version. They got on sale for 60-something, which is a far cry from the nearly $150 for the Retron 5. And I also have the Super Retro Advance adapter en route from these folks as well. So this is going to be my test order with them to see how good they are as an e-tailer. If I wind up chasing them for the order, I'll probably see if I can get it canceled or something like that. But Yeah, this is my first order at Lukey Games, and if I'm not impressed, it'll be my last order with Lukey Games. I have left retro gaming e-tailers before, and of course, having seen how that brick-and-mortar store is, I probably could go there, except they have FC Twins there, and I'm not really a fan of the FC Twin. So anyways, Super Retro Trio on the way, which will let me use my original system controllers with a clone console, and hopefully they've improved some things since the old Retro Duo. And this is a version 1 Retro Duo from years and years ago, so I may even have the sound glitch with certain NES games, but as you can see, I'm not exactly loaded with NES games right now, and considering the Bugs Bunny Birthday Blowout is the one I can get to work the most. Now, the solder joints in this thing, though, got me wondering if maybe there's some cold solder joints going on in here, because one of the problems that we run into, put the camera down here and get these cartridges out, one of the problems that you run into with, yeah, see that? See how much I had to just yank the thing to get it out like that? One of the problems that you run into with these clone consoles is that the brand new 72-pin connectors are tight as all heck. So it takes a little bit of effort to get the games in and out of these systems. So I'm wondering that shock force, zoom out, so the shock force, or whatever, the pressure you have to apply to these things to get the cartridges in, what does that do to the board? Does it bend the board too much? Could I have a cold solder joint? And of course, when you do that, because you're pushing in cartridges and stuff like that, I wonder if it creates cold solder joints in here. So once we get it apart, it's really just a basic, take out a bunch of screws. There's the top with the cartridge slots and stuff like that, and here's the main board. I don't like the look of some of these solder joints, though. Solder is supposed to be somewhat shiny, and many of these solder joints just, well, some of the shinier ones are because I've already gone over them with the soldering iron at least once. But if you look at some of these solder joints, they look gray, and I'm wondering if maybe there was some low-quality solder that basically gave way to some kind of cold solder joint of some sort. So there's actually the Ben Heck forums for the Ben Heck Show actually have a teardown set of diagrams for what's what on here. So what I think I'll do is I'll just mess around with this and see if maybe there's just a cold solder joint, or maybe I really did fry the thing. I did nearly put 12 volts through it, so I don't know if this thing has much for voltage regulation in the power supply circuits, but well, I'll take a look. Well, after a little messing around with it, I'm leaning more towards I might have accidentally put 12 volts through the Nintendo on a chip and fried it. Some of these solder, I've gone over a whole bunch of these solder joints in case any of them had gone cold, and I'm still getting the exact same result. However, if this blob is the NOAC, then it's right next to where the power comes in. So if I mess something up on the power side, it would probably easily take this thing out. Hopefully it didn't fry my game, too. I'm not thinking it fried my game, since the game still works, but I think it's the end of the line for this Retro Duo. And, yeah, let the soldering iron cool down. I think it's the end of the line for this Retro Duo. It still functions as a Super Nintendo replacement, but the NES part of it, yeah. Of course, when I hear Nintendo on a chip, I don't like to think of some little blob like this, but, what are you going to do? Till next time, this is MultimediaJay, signing off. Thanks for stopping by.